Hi everyone, it's Sky, and I'm going to be reading a book, and this book is more like a one-shot. It's by Merthur 711, and it's called The Big Book of Merthur. This one is one-shot number 4, and it's called Doubt. I've not read it yet fully, so we can go on this adventure together about what it's about. The first little bit of information is just hello, it's me again with a brand new one-shot, basically explaining the Arthur's Bane picture in the top of the description. Says 455 views, 20 favourites, and 11 comments. So I'm quite proud of this. So it's not going to have 12 because I like this story. So it's called Doubt, and it starts at the bold underlined word that says Doubt. So let's begin. Wait. Shit. Shit. You hate Harry Potter? Oh yeah. Vivian sipped her wine and pulled off her trademark hair flip that had really gotten Arthur really agitated. Seriously, it was 10 minutes into the date. Twilight's much better, and honestly the best series ever. Bella Swan is just such a role model, you know? She's so pretty, and she can get not one, but 2 girls on her tail without effort. Like, WTF. The quarter of his mind bent over and cringed itself to death at the WTF. And the rest of his mind was screaming, shit, 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 this was a bad idea. She wears too much makeup, takes way too many selfies, is really rude to the waiter, is narcissistic, and don't even get me started on the hair flip. Arthur Pendragon, what were you thinking? I didn't see anything about Twilight in your profile, Arthur coughed uncomfortably. Oh yeah, my sister said it was more likely to get a date if I left that bit out. Vivian smiled a sickly, sweet grin that exposed her obviously artificial whitened teeth. Who the F leaves out a key point like that in their profile? Conscience was going psycho, but he knew that it was Vivian's fault. But he was going to sue Tinder after this. Well, Arthur fumbled, trying to make conversation with his walking, talking blonde disaster. But luckily, the waiter chose this moment to bring them their entree. Ratatouille tartlets with lamb, rosemary sabriel. Enjoy, the waiter said, before shooting Arthur a sympathetic look. One that said, hang in there, buddy. Arthur repressed a groan. He wasn't at all aware of exactly how many people in the restaurant had noticed his state of uncomfort, and to be honest, he didn't think he wanted to know either. Was it really that obvious? Vivian shot a disgusted look at the plate of ratatouille tartlet, as blaming it for interrupting what in her oblivious preparation, yeah, was a good date. Arthur wished that he could just tell her that the whole night was just a feat to satisfy the demands of his father and just go home. But oh, the conversation with Uther afterwards would be splendid, wouldn't it? I don't understand why, Arthur. You have the looks, you have the money. How hard is it for you to just go and get a girl? None of my colleagues have sons who have this problem. They've settled down with respectable women without effort. I don't understand what's so hard. I don't care how you do it. Just get a woman. Why do those words sound so familiar? Oh, that's right. Uther delivers lectures in an identical to this one nearly 5 times a day. A simpleton could figure out that nothing good will come of it if he were to confess his father that he was actually gay. So he just had to keep it low, as his father wishes, for now. He'd been telling himself that for 3 years. It's getting kind of boring, don't you think? Vivian commented while employing lip gloss for what must be the 10th time this evening. Why don't we get away from here, We could cab off at my flat, open up a bottle of red, get going with something meaningful. His mind torn between vomiting and throwing up, when long, slender fingers abruptly laid themselves on his shoulder. Oh, hello, babe, the stranger said. Arthur's head instantly swiveled up and his eyes were met with the most eccentric, vibrant shade of blue he had ever encountered. An elegantly disheveled mop of coal-black hair was perched atop the man's pale, milky skin, which bore cheekbones that looked like they could slice through diamond effortlessly. The stranger shot Arthur a smile that clearly said, I'm saving your ass, so go with it, and turned to the girl across the table who had frozen in shock. I'm Merlin, by the way. You must be one of Arthur's friends from the club. It was a pleasure to meet you. Merlin. Arthur had taken immediate liking to his name, stuck his hand out to Vivian, who was clearly taken back by the sudden display. Yeah, I kind of forgot to mention in my profile that I'm actually dating Merlin here. Sorry, Arthur said when the girl did not take Merlin's outstretched hand. Arthur, Vivian turned in a sort of desperation, was cut off by Merlin, who lowered his hand and looked at Arthur. What resume? Merlin asked innocently, draping a hand around the other man's neck. Hope you're not looking to replace me, honey. Would never dream of it, love. Arthur grinned back, draped his own arm around Merlin's waist, pushing aside the jolt of electricity that shot through his arm. The gesture was only good for measure, obviously. That did it for Vivian. She all but threw her lip gloss into her purse and hastily got up. I have an urgent assignment that I need to get done, so I just... Oh, what a shame. Merlin shrugged. Not a lot of time for us, eh, Arthur? Then he went the whole way and gave Arthur a wink, so suggested downright flirtatious that could get itself into the Guinness World Records 2017. Vivian low-key fled to the restaurant door with one last flick of that god-forsaken hair. She was gone. Arthur sighed in relief and turned to his saviour that was perched on the edge of his seat. Thank you so much for that, honestly, Arthur said gratefully. Merlin chuckled. It's nothing. Really, I saw you were uncomfortable from the beginning. But then she totally tried to break the no sex until third date rule. Arthur let out a full, honest laugh, something he'd forgotten how to do. Anyone who could make him like that was worth his time. How about I repay you with a drink? Arthur asked, noticed all of a sudden. He didn't know why he was asking if the man wanted a drink. He didn't understand the prospect of being rejected by the stranger was so daunting. But he needn't have worried. The corner of Merlin's lips turned into a smile. Thought you'd never ask. For the next hour the two talked about anything and everything. There was something confidently familiar about Merlin. The trace of the Irish accent that laced his gorgeous voice, and the way his posture was leaned in the chair with careless elegance that Arthur would previously believed impossible to achieve. Every crevice of his face seemed to light up when he smiled, and his eyes, the vibrant shade of azure that had drawn Arthur immediately. He could have sworn that he encountered those eyes before. Where? Not that he could fathom, but no matter how hard he tried, he reminded them of an adrenaline in your veins when you were in combat, galloping through landscapes on horseback, cold nights near the warm, inviting fire, and completely unique sensation that distinctly like home. They had departed the crowd in a stuffy restaurant and were strolling through a nearby park, not enjoying the refreshing evening breeze as much as the company. So your father's a lawyer? Merlin inquired, kicking the leaves on the path absent-mindedly as they walked. Yeah, Arthur replied. Usually he tried his best to avoid the subject of his father, but Merlin was different. He owns Pendragon Law. It's a big business. You must have heard of it somewhere. Of course I have. It's probably one of the most successful businesses there is. It also means that, thanks to your father, you must be filthy rich. Arthur couldn't help but heave a sigh. Why does everyone think that I lead a wonderful life with money, pool parties, and constant happiness? Merlin raised an eyebrow. I never assumed that. I only said you must be filthy rich. I expect that you have your fair share of problems like the rest of us. Probably more. Now that it was Arthur's turn to raise his eyebrow, you're the first person to travel down that line of assumption. Merlin shrugged. I'm naturally observant and an open-minded person. Don't flatter yourself, Arthur commented, grinning. Prat. Merlin smiled mischievously. Arthur nudged Merlin playfully before joining in on the other man's laughter. But you did get it right, Arthur mumbled as the laughter died down. I wish you weren't right, but you are. Merlin, of course, was quick to pick up the tone of insecurity that was masked by the other man's failed attempt at a smile. He slowly leaned towards it. Want to talk about it? Arthur stared unblinkingly into the crystal orb that Merlin caught his eyes for a few more moments before slumping his shoulders in defeat and fixating his eyes on the concrete path. It just gets so overwhelming at times, Arthur exhaled. Father always asks too much of me. At first I tried to please him, but there was a flaw in everything I did. Then there was someone who did it better than me. If I were to put my raincoat on by myself, he would blame me for wanting to go out in the rain. If I got an A, he would ask why it wasn't an A+. He pushed me so far and questioned everything. Now I've started to doubt every decision I make. He expects me to take over Pendragon Law, but all I want to do is be a writer. He ran his hand through his hair in an effort to calm himself down. Merlin had not taken his gaze off Arthur. And I suppose you only got a date with that bitch to please your father. Yes, Arthur replied quickly. He wants me to find a woman, so he can brag to his rivals, so I can make heirs to my father's business. I don't want to think how he'll react if I tell him I'm gay. Well, Arthur realized what he had said a second too late, but according to his peripheral vision, Merlin seemed unfazed by the news. He expected Merlin to be disgusted at how weak he was, and how incapable he was when it came to dealing with these minor issues. But what he most certainly did not expect was for the man to silently reach out, and an envelope quiver in his warm, steady one. Life has a way of doing that, doesn't it? Makes you criticize yourself just as much as society does, to the point where you feel like you've lost yourself in how much of a disappointment you are. But what your father or anyone says is beneath you. Arthur, you're your own man, and you just have to trust yourself a little. At this, Arthur couldn't help but turned around, and his eyes found Merlin's intense sapphire ones. The two were close, that Arthur could savage a minuscule speck of gold floating in the sea of blue, and Merlin could see the distinct similarity in the blonde-eyed eyes to another pair of eyes that he had looked into devotion and love long ago. Merlin squeezed at Arthur's hands in a supportive, and Arthur dared not get his hopes up in intimate gesture. His mind had been shrouded by the debt that Uther had inflicted him since childhood, but he had a good feeling about what he was going to do. You could see in Merlin's eyes that he wanted this just as much as any other man. It was slowly, but with uncertainty, that Arthur put a hand on Merlin's neck, but the doubt faded from his mind when Merlin leaned into the touch, in what undoubtedly was an intimate gesture. So there was no uncertainty, and when Arthur leant him and pressed his lips against Merlin's, passion exploded in the hearts of both men. The kiss was gentle, their lips moving with a comforting synchronization that neither was aware they possessed. Merlin's hand reached up and ran through Arthur's hair, exploring his mouth and releasing an intense feelings had been brewing up inside both of them since the moment they met. But they need the air, for it was inevitable, and Arthur eventually pulled away from Merlin's mouth and leaned against his forehead to try and make up for the warmth that he had already begun to miss. "Stay with me?" Arthur whispered, once he had caught his breath. Merlin smiled softly, touched by the fact that Arthur trusted him enough to reveal insecurities, and he spent his life hiding away from others, and determined to stick with him, to walk alongside Arthur as they battled against each other's obstacles, to be the cure. "Always, Arthur. Always." Arthur never felt so safe in his entire life. He'd never felt the emotion that consumed him as Merlin held him close. Finally, he had the love that he could not find in his father and other women, and provided himself to make another feel loved, in contradiction to what Uther had made him believe all these empty years. He found his other half, the person who completed him, grounded him, and made him realize who he was in the time span of a few hours. But perhaps the most shocking factor about the night was the fact that Arthur was completely and utterly sure that his decision of forming a relationship with Merlin was right. There wasn't a shred of doubt in his mind. And then this was just the author, saying thank you for reading the book. So let's go back to the beginning. So I really enjoyed that. I will say I did mess up on a few of them, and I could not say a certain word, but hey, I'm not a reader. When I read to myself, not aloud. So that's fun. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all soon. See you later.